Hello everyone, today we are talking about 6 lesser known things you might not know about Princes Street. How are you all? Hope you're all happy and healthy and safe and well. I'm kind of hoping I can do this without getting rained on too much because there is a little drippy droppy rain. Today we are going to be talking about, I'm pointing up because I know my first fact is there. We're going to be talking about 6 lesser known things you might not know about Princes Street. But before we get started, if you haven't already, please remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button and leave a comment. Let me know if you've known any of these before we get started. Well, not before we get started, after I've done it, and you can then tell me, because if you tell me now, that means you already know what I'm going to say. So what are you watching this video for? It's pointless. But let's do the first one. This is the Balmoral Hotel, right at the east end of Princes Street, and looking up they have this beautiful big clock. Now, alright, okay, it's not exactly Big Ben, but it is a nice big prominent clock on 4 sides that overlooks, you know, the main thoroughfare shopping street in Edinburgh. So if you're not sure what time it is, it's right there. But if you do look at it, you're going to be a little bit early. And the reason for that is because that clock is always 3 minutes fast. This might sound silly, but there's a reason for it, and that's because Waverley train station is there. It is literally right there. Since 1902, which is when they did this, and you can't see the clock for the tree, since 1902 that clock has been 3 minutes fast, so that if anyone is going for a train, they're not going to be late. Simple as that. It's kind of a good idea, you know what I mean? I mean, 3 minutes, it's not enough to really throw you off time-wise, but it's enough to make you go, oh, we better run, and then it gives you that safety. Always 3 minutes fast, so you don't miss your train. Apart from one time a year, Hogmanay. New Year's Eve is set to the exact right time, so that the stroke of midnight is the stroke of midnight. Apart from that, 3 minutes fast. So there you go, there's the first fact that you might not know about Princes Street. I have to say, that's kind of one of those ones that I had heard of years ago, and you kind of sort of go, ah, and then dust it off and forget about it. But yeah, it makes sense. It's a good idea being right beside the train station and not enough to throw you off. Number 2, as you already know, we are on Princes Street, and that's Princes, as in plural of prince. It's not princess, it's princes. But yeah, the reason it is called Princes Street is because it is named after the 2 sons of King George III at the time. He had 2 sons, obviously didn't want to choose, so it's Princes Street, named after the 2. However, that's not what the street was going to be called. Originally, in the design, James Craig, who was the architect that designed the new town, or at least won the competition for the new town, wanted to call it St Giles Street. The reason he wanted to call it St Giles Street was because St Giles is the patron saint of Edinburgh. Hence why we have St Giles Cathedral on the Royal Mile. See? It all makes sense, it all kind of connects together. But King George at the time, this might have been an excuse. You know, he might have actually just been wanting a street named after his 2 sons, because there's George Street just after, and there's Queen Street, and there's Charlotte Square named after his wife and things. So maybe he wanted something named after his sons and just made up this reason. Well, it's a bit windy today, hope he's not, you know, being blustered by wind. But the reason he didn't want it called St Giles Street, even though it's the patron saint of Edinburgh, is because St Giles is also the patron saint of lepers. Not something he was very keen on, even though, so he went, no, we're not doing that, we'll name it after my kids instead. Hence Princes Street. St Giles Street would have been a good name as well though. I mean, we've got a St Giles Cathedral, so obviously that didn't matter about it being patron saint of lepers as well as patron saint of Edinburgh. St Giles Street is a good strong name. But anyway, there you go. And now, to this day, it's Princes Street. I'm in Princes Street Garden right now, on the south side of Princes Street, opposite all the shops, which allows for a beautiful view, if not for the trees, which allows for a beautiful view all the way along of Edinburgh Castle. Now, that'll always be that way, because by order of Parliament you are not allowed to build on this side of the street, so not to detract from the view of Edinburgh Castle, my castle. Now, this wasn't always the way, and for the Parliament to come up with a rule like that is very rare, very, very rare. I can't remember the exact year it happened, but I mean, when you look at the place, when you look at it all, it makes perfect sense. Now, the National Gallery right there was being built in the early stages of Princes Street before this rule came in. But on a side note, you're not allowed to build up past the Balmoral Hotel. The Balmoral Hotel is the last building that you were allowed, and eventually, originally it was houses, and they were going to build. I think it came in because they were going to build factories, workhouses, and they went, no, we're not doing that. So the Balmoral was the last point. I don't think the Balmoral was there at the time, but it was the last point where buildings should go up. Anything from then on has to be subterranean. Big word, I know, but that's why Prince's Mall or Waverley Mall or Waverley Market, as it was when I was young, is underground. It's street level and then subterranean and underground, because that's the only way they're allowed to build. And the work here they've been doing on the National Gallery, there's tea houses and things there, there's a cafe and things underground. So you won't see any buildings ever on this side of Princes Street by order of Parliament. Now you can see the north side of Princes Street is shops, and shops. There's a bus there, or you move out the way. There we go, that's better. Try to stop the wind from blustering all over the camera. You can see shops all the way down. However, even though the street is roughly about a mile long, it's limiting just having shops on one side to an extent, or at least they thought so after World War II. So when they weren't allowed to build on the side that is behind me right now, they came up with the idea of having a double layered Princes Street shopping area. And what they thought was they would build a walkway one level up all the way along there, so you could have a second layer of high street shops outside up there. Now, this idea didn't come to much, and in my research, the reason I'm standing outside Marks and Spencer's is because there was a remnant, possibly that little bit there, the remnant of a balcony that was kind of there, and we'll go a little bit further along because that is the only sort of remnants I think that's left. So you see this balcony essentially above Superdrug and Clark's and things there. That's kind of the only one that I can see that is the remnants of what they were going to do. That's essentially just a balcony. There did used to be offices in there at one point. I don't know if they still are, but something like that they were going to build all the way along. I don't know how they were going to do it when it gets to Frederick Street and Castle Street and Hanover Street, but all the way along. You can kind of see another one a little bit there. What it'll be like. We'll go over there and have a look as well. I don't know if that's a remnants of it, but it could be going by where it is. But yeah, all the way along, 1 mile, one level up, to give a second floor of shops. But if you look at that, it's ugly. I mean, the building itself, obviously you can tell, is not original. But can you imagine all that all the way along? It really would not have been pretty. And to tell you the truth, when it comes to crossing the street, say there at Hanover Street, if that went along, not safe either. I mean, I can tell by the bus there right now, it wouldn't have made it, and that's a single-decker bus. Oh, I'm getting on my high horse a little bit there, aren't I? I mean, obviously it never happened. It was an idea they had, and I get why they had the idea, but nah. Next up, the size of the street. Now, in the late 19th century, the street was widened. Now, I don't know where the marker was of how wide it originally was. No idea. There's not a remnants of it as far as I can tell. But for reasons that also I don't know, the street was widened. Not a bad idea, especially when you look at it nowadays, the amount of traffic that we have on the roads. Although, ironically, you're not allowed to drive on this. It's just trams and buses and taxis that are allowed to be at this point. But they did widen it. It made it very easy to have the best street party in the world for Hogmanay, because it's a nice big party area. But yeah, they widened it. The only remnants left to show is actually Princess Street Gardens. This might seem a bit silly as I stand on this and look down. This didn't used to be as steep going down to Princess Street Gardens. You can see that there's a little bit more of a gradient. This might not be the best place to tell you, but you can see the streets down. They've had to go angled to get a little bit more down. This was a far more gentle gradient to go up to here, but when they widened the street, that made the gradient down to Princess Street Gardens a lot steeper. And that is the only sort of thing. Oh look, there's my castle. That is the only sort of reference that we've got to show, because there is no markings on the ground. But they did it. Next up, there was supposed to be a pond in Princess Street Gardens. Now, if you ever get the chance and you look at the original plans of the new town in Princess Street Gardens, it has a pond. One, it's one big long garden all the way down, and two, it has a pond. Two of those things are now no longer true, and they actually both tie in together. It's because of the creation of the mound. This is the mound here. Well, actually this is Princess Street, but this is the mound here, a road that actually I've been up and down many times with you guys. I've taken you around town. So called because of the mound of rubble and earth that was created when they were actually starting to build the new town. But when they did make it, it was originally supposed to be, like I said, one big long garden. It wasn't actually meant to be here, this road. It turned out to be incredibly handy, and as you can see, it's one of the main sort of veins of traffic in the old new town centre of town. It definitely making it so much more easier to get from, say, the Royal Mile and the older part of town into the newer part of town. So it's a main vein. But there was supposed to be a pond round about here, in between the two gardens, and this road got rid of it. And last but by no means least on our 6 lesser known facts about Princess Street, and probably one of the most well known facts, is it wasn't designed as a street full of shops. It was actually designed as townhouses. Now unfortunately there's very few of the original fronts left. In fact, there's only one, sort of, and it's kinda in front of me right now. Cafe Nero. This sort of design here, where you can see it's got down and an up, I'd say an up, kind of sort of above street level, and a down. That's more the designs of what they were all like. Servants would come in and go down the stairs there. The more residential would go up the stairs there, and in that bit. And deliveries would go onto Rose Street and be taken in through the back, which is why kind of that street exists as well. So obviously it's very different now. We've got all these lovely big shops, but if you do want to see a little bit more of what it used to be like, you don't need to go far. Just come up to George Street, go down to York Place and things like that, and you can see a little bit more what all the buildings used to be a little bit more like. In fact, even if we just come onto here, onto Frederick Street, we can see it was a lot more like this sort of thing. Yeah, okay, they're pubs now and shops, so they've all changed a little bit, but you can see it was a little bit more like this. That goes down, but then the main doors in are up there. So that was kind of what it was more like. Unfortunately, very few, one really, of those still exist on Princess Street. So there you have it guys, 6 lesser known facts about Princess Street. Not unknown, because if they're unknown, I wouldn't have been able to find out about it. But 6 lesser known facts about Princess Street. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, as always guys, please remember, give it a like, leave a comment, let me know if you knew any of these already, or if there's more to it that I just don't know. You know what I mean? I love to learn, please tell me. But I think we'll leave it there. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Come join Clan Broonford. But until next time, bye humans.